try to find out what their needs are and talk highly to them. So that's what I would recommend. Prospect businesses that, one, you have an interest in because you're going to care about that, and then you're going to be able to talk that talk with that person. And I think that kind of makes you almost an expert with them because you know about the radio business, but now you can also talk to them about their business.
Welcome to The Selling Edge, where we explore the tools, strategies, and stories that help sellers win faster and smarter. I'm Kathy Eagle, President of Sales Intelligence with Futuri Media. Today, I'm joined by Allen Willis, a longtime sales professional with more than 4 decades in the radio and media industry. Allen's career has spanned on-air, management, and sales roles, giving him a rare 360-degree view of what it takes to build lasting client relationships and keep new business flowing. In this episode, we're diving into the art and discipline of prospecting. From the early days of flipping through phone books to today's AI-driven insights and Chamber of Commerce sleuthing, Allen shares his tried and true strategies for keeping the sales funnel full, how to stay motivated even when business is booming, and why discipline and curiosity are the real keys to growth. So I know you very well, but I'm going to give you a minute to introduce yourself to everybody listening today.
Yeah, we've worked together off and on since 2004, believe it or not. So it's over, 20 years. Been in the radio business since I was 15 years old. So it's coming up on 47 years, believe it or not.
Don't date yourself now.
Yeah, well, you can do the math, 47 plus 15. It's a blessing to still be able to do what I started out doing, although it's changed, obviously, a lot since when I started, when I was spinning records back in the day. Kids don't even know what that is anymore, but we talk about prospecting and that kind of stuff. I can remember going to radio stations, small stations, locally owned stations, and they threw a phone book on your desk.
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's your
good luck.
Good luck. Yeah. See ya. But I think back, a lot of times that was a good tool to have because those people had ads in the phone book. So you could take that ad, it wasn't free, so they were paying for that. And you could do what they called a spec spot. I don't know how many people still do that. And then actually call them, and if once they said any changes to it, you knew that you had a possible sale. Like if they say, oh, well, we're not open on Saturday, or I don't want to use that phone number or whatever, you knew you had them hooked. And I think we kind of miss, some of that. So, but yeah, I've been on air, been in management, sales, pretty much done just about everything in the business. So it's been fun.
So I'm glad you gave that background because, you started with way back when we were all handed the phone book. But I mean, throughout your career, we were talking 47 years, in radio and media. You were prospecting back then. I'm sure you're prospecting today. That's something that's never changed. Like you always have to have new business. You've always been expected to have new business. But how has that changed just in recent years? Because, we had that huge disruption with COVID and that changed the world in several ways. How have you changed prospecting recently? And, what does that look like today for you?
So a lot of business owners got used to not having salespeople come into the stores, right? They're doing business a different way as well. Now, some of them still welcome you to come in. Some of them will never welcome you to come in. But you've got to be slick about how, and I mean slick in a good way, not a mean way, about how you're getting to them. I mean, just imagine our day and how many emails we get and how many ways we're pulled. That's the same way, for a business owner. So you gotta have a good email way to get in there and an idea. To me, an idea always kind of sells. But the way that I've been prospecting a lot here lately is by going to the Chamber of Commerce websites for whatever town you may be wanting to prospect in. And when you go there, you find out so much information. Who's the owner? You can find out who the contact person is there. Even if it's just the representative that's on the chamber's website for that business, that it's somebody that you can connect with that can at least help you get an answer. So I've been going there and I've had some success with that big time. With just going to the chamber's website, you look, who the businesses are that have joined, the members, and just go from there. And then to me, it's always been about categories. If you remember, when you were my manager, I had a lot of success with the financial category. And unfortunately, because I kind of had to, with my parents getting ill, I got into the nursing home category. And so I kind of learned enough to be dangerous that you could go in and have a conversation with financial people, with people that are running the nursing homes, and try to find out, what their needs are and talk, highly to them. So that's what I would recommend. Prospect businesses that, one, you have an interest in, because you're going to care about that. And then you're going to be able to talk with that person. And I think that kind of makes you almost an expert with them, because you know about the radio business, but now you can also talk to them about their business. So I'd recommend that, honestly.
Yeah. And you're right, because that creates, when you're in that phase and that life cycle or that life experience, that does give you credibility, because you can talk to them almost as if you were a customer, and how they should market to that customer, because you're going through that very thing.
Correct.
Okay. So what happens though, if it's just something that you see out there, like you said, you're going to the chamber, you're finding some businesses. What if you're not, you just think, hey, this seems like a good category, maybe because of a trend that you read somewhere? Or how do you break into those people when you don't have that necessary life moment that's happening?
Well, again, having a VBR or an idea. And I love, not to give you guys a plug, but,
We're okay with that.
Every Monday morning, when I come in, you guys have, that sheet that has like the top 3 categories of business. Like, you should be chasing this now. And you also have the ability to come up with, a presentation. Or I had a client, I won't mention them, but they're a jewelry store, having a hard time getting into them. And I requested one of those. And part of that presentation was a heat map that you guys provide. And it shows exactly the hottest zip codes around that. Well, it just so happened that this business, 8 of the top 10 hottest zip codes, they wanted to reach. And so that turned into something there. But, just things like that would be a way that you could continue to prospect. We have a place at St. Mary's Lake, a little camper, nothing big, but they have a magazine up there that comes out monthly, and I pick it up every month, and it's good leads, for me. And I actually stumbled on 2 or 3 of them that have turned into new business, for me just from that, because our stations reach up that way as well. And they wanted bigger station impact than some of the local stations that are up that way. So you just, when you're in this business, you can't watch television like everybody else. You can't listen to the radio. You can't drive, because you're always thinking like, man, that's a new business, right? I should be calling on that. I wonder if anybody's calling on that. So you go in, you see if anybody's claimed it. So your mind's just always thinking that way, or it should be anyway.
Right. In the business, everything you listen to, you watch differently, because you're looking for leads, right? But that's interesting that you're always in that mindset, and you've been in this business forever. And again, it's not just media business, it's any business, right? I mean, you have to have new business no matter what. When business is good, it's easy to kind of put new business on the back burner, right? Because your current clients are maybe upselling, you're upselling them, they're coming on for different things.
Yep.
How do you stay motivated to prospect and look for new business when things are just rolling in? Like, not that this happens as much anymore, that you can can't get out of the way the money.
Yep.
But what do you do in that situation?
Well, I mean, if you've been in the business long enough, you have to keep prospecting. Just, again, won't mention any clients, but just this year alone, I had one of my biggest clients. They were traditional 6-figure client. They went national. I had another client. They were somewhere in the $60,000 to $80,000 a year. They went out of business. I've got a client that is spending a ton of money with me, just sold out. And so I don't know what is going to happen with that business. So you have to keep, prospecting, because none of those things that I just mentioned, I didn't do anything wrong. It's just attrition that's going to happen to you all the time. And you just have to keep, you can't stop. What I try to do, and I really try to stick with this, is I've got a day of the week that is on my calendar that I want to prospect for new business. And I try to hold that appointment the best I can. Sometimes things happen that you can't, but 3 out of the 4 weeks, I spend 2 hours prospecting for new clients, new appointments each and every week to try to keep that funnel filled, because if you don't have a funnel, you're going to get caught. And it's not a good thing to get caught with no new business. And the company I work for, they incentivize us. They pay us more if we get new business.
Right.
So that's an incentive as well.
So you said a specific day of the week that you set aside. So that gets hard, right? Because like you said, we all get emails coming in. So a couple of questions. How do you stick to that time and make sure that you block it out? And regarding the day of the week, has there been a day of the week that's better for prospecting for you that you found versus another day of the week?
Well, so Wednesday is typically my day. It's like the middle of the week. And I take between 2 and 4:30 on Wednesdays. And it's on my calendar. So if my manager or managers get in my calendar, they can't put something in there for me because it's already blocked, right? So it's in there. So it's like, okay, Alan's busy. And then, I just, through the week, I start looking at businesses, checking businesses, again, going to the chamber sites, listening to other radio stations, just trying to find it. And then those are the people that I try to target by calling to get new business appointments for that next week. And that gives me a chance too. I can get on their websites. I can try to find out some stuff, maybe carve out an idea for them, especially if it's like a sports call that I want to try to make. So you have to allow yourself that time to prospect, because if you don't, Kathy, right, life just takes over, the job takes over, and you'll just never do it. You have to be disciplined to do it.
Yeah. And discipline, I think, is the main thing, because like we were both talking about, you can spiral down a rabbit hole. If you just look at your email, all of a sudden you're answering everything, and then you don't focus that time on the new business.
Correct. Yeah. And when I'm prospecting, I turn my email off, right? So I'm on my laptop because I'm Googling things to try to find out about businesses and stuff. But my email, so I'm not like the squirrel. Remember the squirrel we used to talk about?
Yeah.
That ding, ding, ding thing? It'll drive you crazy. Turn off your email. It's still going to be there when you're finished prospecting.
Yeah.
You got to devote that time to yourself to do that.
That's great advice. And you're right, you have to do it. You had mentioned 3 initials earlier that maybe not everybody knows. We in our industry know it. You said VBR.
Yep.
Can you explain what that is?
Well, it's a valid business reason. Why am I bothering you, Mr. Businessman? And maybe it's an idea. I keep going back to ideas, but I think ideas sell. It could be some of the stuff that you guys even provide for us as far as, trends, maybe, and maybe they know that, but that's okay. How many other salespeople are going to them, talking to them about their business? They're not. They're coming in saying, hey, I got the package of the week, or, we're number one, or whatever. But if you actually talk to this business owner and maybe they haven't heard about this trend, or maybe it's just something that's maybe out in California now, but it could affect here, look for that type of stuff. And I know, you guys offer that, and it's, that's what you have to have. Here's the reason I'm bothering you, Mr. Business Person. That gets much more respect than you just popping in, saying, hey, who's your, decision maker or whatever. Have something for them. Don't spill it all at the door, but enough to get you an appointment. That's the key. And so that's what it is. It's a valid business reason. Why are you, calling on this business person?
Right. And really, why do they want to see you?
Exactly.
Versus everybody else. Like you said, everybody else, or a lot of people, I won't say everybody, a lot of people come in and it's all about them.
Yep.
And about a business reason makes it about the client, the business.
Correct.
The prospect.
And instead of what do I have to sell, it turns it around to what do you need to buy for the client? You're turning it around from us to them. And, if I was a business owner, I'd definitely respect that process a lot more than just somebody coming in trying to sell me something.
Right. Now, you talked about trends, but really what you're using those trends is to build credibility for yourself, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah, it's like I care enough about your business to try to find out something about it, whether it be on your website, whether I Google that category of business, whether I utilize what you guys offer. And it also allows you those trends. If you can be the person that gets there first, think of all the businesses that you could touch with that same message. So you may have one trend, but that may affect 4, 5, 10 businesses that you could potentially call on and utilize that strategy. There's no reason. I mean, nobody has the exact only strategy. So maybe it doesn't work for that first business, but maybe it works for the third, fourth, fifth business with that same trend. So you've got to stay in touch with that kind of stuff for sure.
Yeah. And not only, I mean, when you're talking about, hey, it can open up a lot of different businesses for you, not just in one category, it could be like associated categories. So you could actually have one trend that helps you out with multiple
Correct.
lines of business. Okay.
And even if it's not that exact trend, you might see something that relates somehow and be able to utilize that train of thought to another completely different category of business. Yeah.
Okay. So you sell radio, you sell TV, you sell digital, you basically sell it all. But one of your big things and your passion, and I know this about you, is sports. So let's talk about prospecting and how prospecting for sports might be a little different, or is it?
Well, I can tell you it changed back in '04 when I first came to work for you guys at HIO. We were just HIO radio, but we had the Dayton Flyers. We were just AM, actually, back when I started. But if you remember back then, businesses, clients, they had a designated fund, right? Non-discretionary fund for basketball. Every year they wanted to be a part of UD basketball. Those days are gone. It's all about ROI now, and you've got to get them clients or they're going to be one season and done. And I hate that, because then you're just chasing your tail every year. So what you have to do is really look at the business and try to figure out what's the best idea, right? So if it's a financial guy, what makes sense for that business? Could it be the stats of the game? Maybe it's a glass place that sells windows or something. Do they do a rebounding feature, right, on the glass? Something like that. If it's real estate or a car dealer, the keys to the game. Try to make that feature wrap around them so it gives them another touch point with somebody listening. It makes sense, for what they're doing. That's what I've tried to do throughout the years. But yeah, it's all about ideas now. There's no guy that's just waiting there with a bag full of money for you to come in. Hey, UD basketball's getting okay. Here you go, Allen. No, those days are long gone, and it's an uphill battle. It truly is, because I think sports is a branding option for people, and if they only do just sports, then they limit their exposure to the entire audience, our listeners and viewers. So you want to try to use the sports as a springboard to try to get them to do more things throughout the year, But that's, trying to do the idea for a feature is the most important thing to me, because then that gives them a chance. And if it's a really good feature, like, the officials of the game, right? Sell it to an eyeglass doctor. It's funny. Let's meet the officials of the game, brought to you by, eye doctor or whatever, because everybody's always like, here, take my glasses, ref, you can't see. It's just try to match that kind of stuff up. Again, it's an idea, and that's a valid business reason to get you in the door.
Yeah. So as we're talking about prospecting, is there one piece of advice that you would give to sellers who want to build a stronger, more robust business, new business pipeline? What is that piece of advice?
I think I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Make sure that whatever you're prospecting, that you have a little passion about, a little interest, a little knowledge, kind of care about it a little bit. I'm trying to think of something that I, really don't care about, that I'd have a hard time. I can't really think about it, but there are things that are further down on the list for me. Like I said, I can talk a lot about, I could go to any financial place and talk to them about their business. Same with, nursing homes and that type of thing. Find something that you know a little bit about, passion. I like sports cards. So it's real easy for me to go into a sports card shop and try and talk to them about, what's going on in their world. I can mention cards that, man, I wish I had that card or whatever. And you get their interest right away because they're like, okay, this guy kind of knows what he's talking about. Type of thing. So that's what I would do. Maybe it's something going on in your own life. Maybe you're getting your kitchen redone or your bathroom redone. So now you've almost become an expert in that because you're going through that process. So take that and maybe go find a business that you can talk to them about. Hey, I know a lot of folks are getting their bathrooms redone, their kitchens redone. I think this is a great spot for you to be. My station, homeowners, that type of thing. So equate the qualitative information back into your idea. But you got to be interested, I think, and you got to have a little bit of passion about the businesses that you want to call.
I've got another question about that. So that makes total sense to me. And because you're walking in with, like you said, some passion, some knowledge, some credibility. But how do you determine if they have the money to be worthwhile? And when do you cut bait on somebody?
So, that's a good question. And we've always been told that you have to have that difficult conversation. At some point in your CNA, you got to go through the questions and identify whether or not, but you've got to ask them, what sort of budget do you have? If I come back with a great idea, some of the things we've discussed, I'm thinking already that I could put something together. What do you have? What are you willing to put towards that? So, and that's hard for people to do that. So what ends up happening is if you don't ask that question, you either come back with something that is too low, and you kind of insult them, right? Because they're thinking, wow, he only thinks I can spend $2,500. Or you come back with something that blows them away, right? Maybe you come back with a $25,000 package and they're like, are you nuts? Never prejudge anybody. You've seen it. I've seen it throughout the years. You go buy a place and you're like, yeah, that's nothing. And it turns out it's a pot of gold in there. If you remember, and I won't mention the business, although I don't think they're open anymore, one of our buddies, Jack, used to call them this mattress place.
And I thought you were going to go with the puzzle place.
Well, I mean, you could go there too. But if you remember, there was a mattress place in not so great part of the town. And I'm sure people drove by that place a gazillion times. And for whatever reason, he stopped in there and they were a multi-year advertiser for him. And it was a hole in the wall. It was a mattress place, but the radio commercials, I'm sure people, they were probably disappointed when they showed up at this place, but they made it seem like it was bigger than life. And they kept spending money with him. So don't ever prejudge, and going back to things that I may not be interested in. So like for me, it'd be like, I wouldn't go call on a bridal place or someplace like that, right? You just, there's things that they don't interest me. Although my daughter's 22 and she's got a serious boyfriend now. So that may be my interest here, Sim.
You will be calling, getting at least figuring out what the prices are pretty soon.
See if somebody wants to do a trade with me. But so that's what I would tell folks for sure.
What else? Is there anything that we haven't uncovered? We've talked about valid business reasons. We've talked about identifying the revenue potential that's out there. But if you're just not even to that phase yet, like you haven't started calling on them, is there a way that you can find out what the revenue is, or is that basically done when you get into the CNA?
Well, I mean, you can guesstimate, I guess, but there's nothing better. The thing I've learned, and it's not all of them, but most business owners, they want to talk about themselves. There's a pride there. And so if they can sense that they can trust you, they'll open up, they'll talk to you. You just have to ask the questions. And so, yeah, that's when you go from, okay, I'm not sure if this person's able to spend this, where you go in the prejudging, to, yeah, they can actually do this. And, the word I use a lot, Kathy, is I want to partner with you, and I truly mean that, because their success is my success. If I don't do a great job at putting them on the right station with the right message, then they're not going to get results. And then, we're not going to be, working together anymore. And then I've got to go try to find more, people to replace that, instead of building a good book of business and then adding on to that with some new stuff. I want to keep as many people as I can and then just add to it. And so, to me, being a partner with these people is the best thing. And the other thing that I see with some new people, and you cannot do it, is you sell it and you forget it.
Yes.
You can't do that, because you work so hard to get this business. And it's scary. I'm not going to, right? You call somebody a couple weeks after they start, hey, how's it going? And you're so afraid they're going to say, well, nobody's calling. But what that does is, instead of a negative, it's a positive. It's like, okay, I get it. That's happened. So here's what we can do. Let's change the messaging. Maybe we got a guy's voice on it. Maybe we turn it, maybe a female does the thing. It gives you a chance before the contract ends and you go out there and then you get that message. You have no chance at that point. Zero chance to re-sign that business. But if you check in 2 weeks in and you get that, well, nobody's really called. Okay, we've gotten that before. You're just introducing yourself to our audience. Maybe we need to tweak the message. And then that person's like, okay, he's trying. But if you wait till that contract ends, you're done.
Well, Allen, you and I could sit here. We go way back. We could sit here and talk prospecting a new business all day long, because it is a big subject, right? And it's something that every business, every salesperson has to do to be successful. So do you have any final thoughts?
Well, I mean, you have to do it. I mean, again, schedule time and be as disciplined with that time as you would your biggest client, right? Your biggest client, I've got an appointment with them 3:00 on Monday. I'm not going to miss that. All right. Wednesday at 2:00, I'm not going to miss my appointment. You have to be disciplined to do it, because you don't know what 2026 is going to hold. I mean, we're starting to talk annuals and stuff now. Who's coming back? Who's not? Who's going to drop back? Who's, going to spend more? You can try to prepare as much as you can, but then there's things that just happen. The client goes national, business closes, business sells. You've got to have that funnel filled all the time at the different levels. One getting ready to close, one getting ready to, to do the CNA. And if you don't, you're chasing your tail and you're wasting a lot of valuable time.
Allen, this has been such a great conversation, full of wisdom, experience, and practical advice. What I love the most is how you've shown that while technology and tools keep evolving, the fundamentals of selling stay the same: curiosity, preparation, and genuine passion for your client's success. Your point about treating prospecting time like an appointment with your biggest client really stands out. It's a reminder that discipline and consistency aren't just habits, they're competitive advantages. Thank you again for joining us and sharing your story.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Kath.
And thanks to our listeners for tuning in to The Selling Edge. Until next time, keep selling smarter, not harder.